welcome. Good evening. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on another special episode of the NewsX Business World special panel discussions on the state of the Indian economy and the way ahead. We have a power-packed panel, as always, joining us today to decode the state of the Indian economy, the opportunities available before us, and what now the government needs to do moving forward. We have Monisha Advani, a partner of NMA Entertainment and Motion Pictures, joining us live. Saurabh Garg, co-founder and chief business officer of NoBroker.com, is also with us. Deep Bajaj, founder Sirona Hygiene, is also with us live. Hemant Sehel, founder and CEO of Corpol, also joins us this evening. Tushar Mittal, founding partner Workplace Trends India and managing director StudioCon Ventures Private Limited, is also with us on the broadcast. And of course, is Dr. Anurag Batra, chairman and editor-in-chief of Businessworld and Exchange for Media, completes the panel, and of course he'll also be co-hosting the program today as always. Let me begin with you first, Monisha Advani, if I can, on your take on what so far the government has done for the Indian economy. Are you disappointed because entertainment has not got any specific bailout package as such, and what more are you expecting ahead?
Monisha, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Yes, perfect.
Thanks for the question. Happy to start the pack here. You're quite right. Rather underwhelmed at this point with what we've seen over the last 100-odd days come our way. This is true for the sector. I'm not talking about what has been done for the nation at large as far as our health and safety and emotions are concerned. I think that the entertainment industry has done its part to ensure that we have either recycled or we've managed to fast-track covert post-production and put content out there to keep people engaged as they've stayed at home. So somewhere I think we've done our bit in keeping the lockdown successful to whatever extent we've been able to do so. Having said that, the economy and the kind of relief measures that have been rolled out thus far, they're rather underwhelming. I'm not overly ambitious also because I believe that we, particularly as a sector, are in a sense operating for output purposes regionally. So we tend to be agnostic of what the center doles out. Having said that, I do believe that we are a great stimulus for consumerism, and that's true for pretty much every gentleman on this panel and what they have to offer. There's some communication that comes through the entertainment sector. And I do hope that that's something that's taken cognizant of, and we benefit from the ecosystem and get the stimulus that we need.
Okay, and you know that's a fair point. And if we talk about the new normal for the entertainment industry, what do you see that? You know, because right now with theaters still closed and not opening anytime soon, we're seeing OTT platforms gain ground. Feature film releases on OTT platforms later this week. We're going to see Amitabh Bachchan and Ayushmann Khurrana go straight to the digital platform of Amazon Prime. So is that the new normal for your industry?
I think firstly, it's something that's been a normal for us going to digital for the past, I think, almost 5 years as they slowly inched up and clawed into the mind space of consumers. Undoubtedly, the lockdown has been a fillip for the OTT scenario. Theaters are taking a hit, certainly. My company produces content for both cinema as well as for short format consumption, as a result of which we have really been able to balance our books in a sense. Having said that, seeing Mr. Bachchan on a small screen is not a new thing. He's the god of KBC. So I think that whatever gets us as producers humbly fastest to our consumer, that's the track we're going to take. So there's pragmatism right now with which we are operating. There are a lot of people who are disappointed, particularly our fraternity in the theatrical release environment and infrastructure. But we're doing our best to ensure that we save punches for them, which are the large punches which will help them get back on track soon.
Monisha, I want to be real here. I want to ask you two things. One is that the production came to a complete halt for 90 days. So it would have upset your apple cart like it did for many industries. Second is, people are very hesitant to come to offices. There's a real fear that, you know, they may contract the disease while on way to office or in the office or in the lift. What do you think can be done to give them confidence?
You know, we thought we had actually worked out the SOPs for this very, very thoroughly. And theoretically, we probably have. We've talked about all possible scenarios. And then I walked that myself personally yesterday as we opened our offices for the first time. And I have to be very honest. I know this is a platform which goes out to many people, but I cannot disguise my overwhelmed sense of concern for my own personal health, for that of my people. As I went in, there was a lot of deliberation whether we are acting out of bravado right now or out of bravery. I think there's a lot of misinformation also. I talked to some of my journalist friends after that experience, and they tried to allay my fears and said that, listen, don't go by the volume that we speak at. Try and look at what the message is. And the message is really, if we keep the SMS going, which is, sanitize, mask, and social distancing, we should be fine. But it's easier said than done, especially when you've been bombarded with so much information or misinformation over the last 100 days. I can't see anybody in this panel not being concerned if one of us was to just cough a little or even sneeze, which is just a natural bodily reaction, isn't it? But it is scary, and I don't think that's just for our business. In production, I was talking to my partners just before this call. I told them I don't know how we're going to get onto a set. We've got everything worked out. We've invested lakhs of rupees on equipment on each set, on each floor to try and secure it. But all it's going to take is for one person just to cough, just reactively, and it can have a chain reaction, and everybody will just want to shut down. And that's like a loss of about 10 to 15 lakhs for the day.
And that's perhaps exactly why, Anurag Batra, responding to the question, of course, you had raised earlier, we are seeing a trend in Mumbai of no film shootings actually begin or serial shootings, despite the Maharashtra government allowing it. Interestingly, no one actually has taken the call to go back to proper shoots. There have been possibly advertisement shoots, which have, of course, happened with very minimum staff, but no full-fledged film or TV shoots just yet because of the sentiment I think Monish Advani just filled us in with. Okay, let's take that now to Deep Bajaj if we can. Deep Bajaj, come in here. Welcome, Deep. The same question to you of the state of the Indian economy right now. What were the thumbs up in your view of what the government so far has done for your industry and the general economy?
Well, I'd say if you look at the stimulus, we would still say that there was a lot more that could have been done. Because if you look at the worst affected of the lots, other than the migrant laborers, is the smaller businesses. And for them, none of the relaxation solves the real problem in the short term, which is lack of liquidity. So, at the staff level, I see my folks still struggling to get a clarity around the school fees. There is hospital treatment for which they need money. At our level, we are discussing with employees on salaries, and all the statutory compliances on the other end have not changed. I mean, you've deferred them a little, but they've not really moved. So a lot more, according to me, could have been done. I think perhaps if you could have learned a little from West in this case, where in Canada and many European countries, money was put directly in people's account. And I'm not saying for everybody, for many who are, moving, the migrant laborers, perhaps we could have done that, because according to me, a lot more people have died because of hunger than COVID. So stimulus, I don't know. I mean, it's on paper, it looks very good. Even for our industry per se, there is nothing that I would say would help me survive the business in 3 to 6 months period. 1 year later, 2 years later, but will survive, one doesn't know. So at a startup, I'd say a little more could have been done. Which was...
Deep, you come from the hygiene sector and you started doing what you do much before. Let me go to Saurabh and let me bring a counterpoint here. Saurabh has been able to raise, no broker has been able to raise $80 million in this lockdown, right? So shouldn't entrepreneurs be creative and find ways and means where others are struggling? Indian entrepreneurs are known to be innovation-oriented, jugaad-oriented. They're even thinking big. So why should you expect help from the government? The only thing you should possibly expect from the government is more testing and more beds. Because if the confidence comes back, automatically the debate between lives and livelihood will go away. So Saurabh, tell us, was this deal done pre-March and it's announced now, or it has taken shape in the last 90 days?
Anurag. No, I think this deal we started discussing around March, and it was closed in March, post the lockdown. And we got the money after, I think we got the money in April, something around that. So clearly, there is money available for businesses that are doing good. I mean, you clearly saw that what Jio has done. In this lockdown, they've raised 1 lakh crores. So, that money is available. But at the same time, I kind of agree with Deep that there could be a lot more which could have been done here. Because if you look at the real estate sector, so if you just break it into different parts, one is a rental sector, which is kind of not affected that much because, unless the jobs are lost in a big way, the rental sector doesn't get affected. But clearly, I think
the rental sector.
Yeah.
So I have a different view. The retail rental sector has got impacted. As you know, that 1,75,000 crores of lease rental discounting happens, and that's gone for a toss. But I think you're referring to residential.
I'm referring to residential.
Qualified.
Yeah,
residential rentals.
Yeah. So clearly, what is the need of the hour is to make sure that the job losses don't happen, and that's where I think probably some kind of liquidity, some kind of collateral-free loans, which have already been announced for MSMEs, and there are also some equity infusion which has been announced. But what we have to see is that how much of it is going to translate into reality and how much time it will going to take. Because even now, I don't think there is very much clarity on how these loans are going to come in. There is a mention that some of these loans are going to come in to people who have already taken some loans and not to loan-free companies. That makes it very, very qualified. And again, on the equity part, there's a 50,000 crore fund which have been announced, but I don't know how much of it is going to be deployed, by what time, what is the criteria for that. At the same time, if you look at the real estate developers, I think that is something which has been affected in a big way, and their cash flows are going to be affected for some time to come. There is again something which has been announced for housing finance companies and NBFCs in terms of security guarantee. Again, I think the speed is of essence there. The execution is of essence. How fast it can be executed and the liquidity can come to these people. A lot of people have come out and they're saying that the real estate developers have to cut rates drastically. But I don't think that's possible. If you look at their balance sheets, they can't go on and cut 15-20% rates.
What about retail rentals, sort of? Because that's another big point which is leading to shops shutting down, restaurants shutting down, and a big tussle, even at malls with mall owners and shop owners.
I want to top up this question. Does funding in no broker signify that the residential real estate market, because the millennials will look for their own homes because they'll work from home, because they always had shared spaces. So then, is it a confidence in the Indian residential real estate market? Second, is when work from home becomes a reality, commercial real estate requirement will come down. Will it be offset by the norms of social distancing? And I would put the same question to Tushar, especially about office real estate. But tell us, is it a confidence in Indian residential real estate?
So clearly, I think one big confidence is that a lot of these transactions which were happening offline, which were happening in an unorganized way, will become online and will become organized. And that is something which we're seeing across the world. So even if you look at the US, you will see that the companies which have really done well in this pandemic are the companies which are technology enabled. Since the time that this pandemic started, we launched our video walkthroughs, and in between from the March end till now, more than 2,000 houses have been closed on video walkthroughs. People didn't have to step out of their houses. They could see.
For 10 years, we've been talking about it, at least.
Sorry?
2,000 houses in 90 days.
Yeah. And then clearly, this is something which we didn't expect, or we thought that something like this will take probably 3-4 years for this kind of technology adoption. But the Indian customer has adopted it very, very fast. And, these people found houses, they started paying rents online. So a lot of things have started coming online. So clearly, I think the one way to do this is to make sure that, one, people feel safe. They don't have to step out unnecessarily. And a lot of things which can be done through the help of technology should be done in that way. And clearly, like Monisha mentioned, that SMS is very, very important, making sure that you're sanitizing, you're maintaining social distancing, and, wearing a mask, very, very critical. And if we have to bring the economy back on track, this confidence in people has to come that when they're stepping out of houses, they're safe. They're going to be safe. I think that's paramount.
And Saurabh, also there has been a real fear that a lot of startups, the revenues have gone down to almost zero, depending on what sector they're in. The funding is not coming. And there is a real fear that in the next 90 to 120 days, some of these startups may not survive. What do you have to say to that, Saurabh?
And also, what would be your advice as someone who's just raised some money? You quoted Mukesh Ambani, but that's a different level. He's done a great job, no doubt. But for smaller startups, because we also saw Anand Mahindra also investing in another startup, just I think a day or two ago. So for smaller startups, what would you advise? And of course, Dr. Batra's question as well.
So I think, look, my advice is going to be, this is the time when you should be innovative. You should find ways in which you can run your startup at the lowest fuel possible. Even if you have raised money, I don't think it's a time to spend a lot of money unnecessarily unless you see the demand coming back. But, there are again, different cities behaving very differently. For example, if you look at a city like Bangalore, we are seeing that already the demand is back to almost 85-90% of what it was in February, March. But if you're looking at cities like Mumbai, Pune, it is still at 45-50%. So probably even if you're investing some money, you should focus on the cities where the return on investment would be much higher. Looking at cities like Bangalore, which is doing fine. Hyderabad is also okay. Chennai, surprisingly, is doing good for us. But I think Delhi, NCR, and Mumbai and Pune are still very much affected. So make sense to wait for this, let this thing settle down a bit before you start spending a lot of money on these cities.
Let me decipher what Saurabh is saying. He's saying spend money on things that generate revenue and that are performance oriented. That's what Saurabh is saying. At this point, let me bring in Hemant. Hemant, you heard the other entrepreneurs. You'll have to unmute yourself. What is your response to the economic stimulus, and how do you think we can get the Indian economy back to its old glory?
All right. So, see, education technology has been one of the sectors in a way which has got sort of pushed ahead because of this unwanted scenario we are all in. So for us, the last 3 months, we've been pretty busy because there have been a lot of new sign-ups, there's a lot of intensity of implementation at institutions we work in. So honestly, I didn't really had a lot of time to look at what stimulus has come. And also in the past, whenever I've tried looking at some of these things that have come, I've hardly understood anything because they're so complex.
Are you being cynical? There's a very thin line between being real and cynical. Are you being cynical? And, I really want to ask you, brother, right earnest.
No, so I'll tell you what I mean. So I think, like I said, even if I try to understand something out of these, stimulus that come, I've found myself most of the time that I don't understand too much about it, right? So I leave that to my accounting and my other team say, hey, if there's anything that we can get out of it, figure it out. But as an entrepreneur, like you said, the focus is go back to the market, try to figure out the ways you can, keep going. And one of the good things that have happened in a lot of, I would say, bad things that are happening is that the focus has gone back to unit economics for entrepreneurs. A lot of money that was getting burned, the focus has gone back to looking at what is getting you money, focus on that. The salaries have sort of got normalized a little bit in the market. I know some
valuations have got normalized.
Valuations have got normalized. So that's one. So I think one of the things which personally, and it's a very simple thing, and I don't know why the government has not yet looked at it, is that one of the problems as a company we are facing is that while we are raising invoices to our clients who need to pay to us, a lot of them who are not in a position to pay, but we need to end up paying GST for it, right? So that's one of the biggest troubles that I think we are seeing, that the delay in the payments are causing those issues. So I think government must look at.
So practically, that's a suggestion that can be effective. You believe that's something that the government can do? What else can they do?
GST for a couple of months? Is that what Hemant is saying?
Yeah, and especially that, maybe if there is a way to collect it, connect it to collection, that, as entrepreneurs, we're happy to pay GST, but it should be somewhere connected to, collection. That will give us some, I would say, leeway. And second thought is that, because I'm talking particularly from an education technology perspective, one of the biggest things that impacting our market is that most of the institutions do not have a clue of when these new students would come, when will they be able to collect fees, and then so they have intention to adopt technology, they have intention to move to the new digital world, but they don't have any clarity on when the students are going to join, when will they be able to collect fees. And with so many state governments passing on different laws altogether on collecting, not collecting fees, when students will be able to join, there's a lot of uncertainty. And we cannot discount the fact that education is one of the largest services in the country and even in the world. And it employs and it impacts a lot of lives in the country. So I think a little bit more clarity from the government on these things, that when are the new academic years starting.
And again, center has a certain directive, the states have a different directive. So it's a patchwork solution in some cases. So the government is doing its best to bring all the elements together. Tushar, at this point, let me bring you in and you'll have to unmute yourself. Tushar, you basically build offices, high-end offices, experiences. You build the workplace of the future. You build the WeWork office, and I can go on. Now, is it a good time for people like you? Is it a bad time? What do you have to say? The good is that people will have to do their offices anew for social distancing. Bad time is we may not need office spaces.
And especially co-working spaces.
So I think, Anurag, thank you for, giving this opportunity to, speak.
A little louder, Tushar.
So thank you, Anurag, for inviting me.
I heard that.
So the question which you have asked, is very, very uncertain right now. But as moderator said that, yes, the social distancing perspective, India is not like Europe or America, where the people are talking about, kind of, making more spaces and, giving more spaces to the employees. Here, the people are doing it a small hack that, the 25% people go on, work from home, and then that same space will be used for the social distancing. So it is not that you will be reinventing your office or redesigning or immediately in short span. I think people will not be investing that much of money because already the sentiment is the cash should be reserved. The people should make the cash available for, further, maybe it's a wave 2 or maybe wave 3. And regarding the co-working, yes, again, people have not started coming back to the offices. Like majority of corporates, those who are using the co-workings or maybe any other spaces, still keeping distance from the offices. And, most important thing, Anurag, offices will remain offices. Offices is not only just working on a 12 inches or 13
but,
inches.
Tushar, I won't be contrary. We said, I would jokingly say, if somebody would ask me, can you work from home? I would say on Saturday, Sunday, you can work from home. But today it is possible to work from home 8 days a week. I'm not sure that the office is missed as much as we make it out to be, or from a cost imperative. Or maybe we'd like to save the office rentals that we pay for. So, we never said work from home is possible. It is possible. So maybe the office will never come back in the past format as it was.
Yeah, so I'll just ask you one question, Anurag. When we are on, if you want to go on diet, you need a lot of efforts to go on diet. But if doctor says 3 days you will be on this diet, you will be on the diet, But normal course, when the treatment is over, you again come back to normal diet. So the same thing right now, we are in a forced condition.
Possibly.
We don't have any choice to, work for office. So right now, the kind of emergency situation, forced situations are different. I'll just tell you, in my, I'm conducting a lot of debates and meeting a lot of leaders. If you personally ask me, offices, working on the screen, 12 hours, it is like working in a 2D environment, okay? And offices are not meant to just do work on, the screen. It is meant to do collaboration, ideation, meeting, interaction, and you feel something you are in a world, where you are interacting with people. If you ask me today, and it is again varying to industry to industry. Construction industry has a different. Film industry is ready to work from home. How will you shoot the film at home? How construction will work at home? If you don't supervise, how will you, So one thing which I just wanted to add over here, my Saurabh has said, I think the one thing which gonna disturb this, the real estate world very seriously is the technology. So nobroker.com has, taken the, lot of work, people were going on the site and just showing the sites, and now technology is doing that. So I think
tech innovations is an emerging trend, and if you want to succeed, do something tech enabled. Let's just quickly, before Dr. Batra also comes in with some more themes, pick up on one of the points that Tushar Mittal was making and get a comment perhaps from Saurabh Garg. Saurabh, do you agree with the point that Tushar Mittal was making about digital companies and entrepreneurs who have tech innovations as really being the trend which will define this post-COVID era?
And if I may add to this question, very digital. For example, if you raise 80 million, you will hire people. You're expanding, right? Or may use technology. Can technology bring back India's GDP? And if yes, how?
Yeah, I think, yeah, technology can really be an enabler which can make sure that we recover faster rather than, taking a long time to recover. Because if you look at all the estimates right now, it is saying that India will probably decline by 5% this year, and then maybe next year we might start growing. So technology can play a very big role in that sense. Like I mentioned that, I kind of think that a lot of people who are working from offices can actually start working from home. That is something which is possible in some of the sectors. So if you look at, for example, TCS, they have said that 75% of the workforce will start working from home by 2025. And otherwise also, and there are a lot of industries, for example, Amazon has said that till October, everybody has to work from home. I think it's the first time that India is seeing this work from home kind of culture. There's something which we have never seen earlier. Even when we started work from home, it was quite a shock for us in beginning. Like Tushar mentioned, it's like a doctor's prescription, and we took almost 4 or 5 days to figure out how things are happening, what is happening. The work days, which used to be like a 10-hour day, actually became 14-15 hours because you're figuring how to get things in place. But I think once it got into that frame of thing, now things are pretty much stable. Even our call center works from home because we've been able to provide them that kind of infrastructure. So clearly, I think a lot of these people can work from home, and that can make things happen faster. For example, like I mentioned that cities like Bangalore have already opened up, and people we are serving from Bangalore, and even in cities like Chennai, for example, we're able to serve them sitting here from Bangalore. We don't need to be physically present over there. Similarly, I think when we spoke about other sectors, like we spoke about some of the things about. If you look at e-commerce, for example, suddenly it's seen a sudden boom which has happened. If you look at what is happening in the US, Amazon has just, the valuation of Amazon has gone through the roof. And you're clearly seeing that this is a behavior which is going to stay because, again, some of the shifts which we thought will take multiple months to happen have happened overnight, and things are there. My mom, for example, who is not a very tech savvy person, ordered medicines online. She's never done this before in her life, and clearly this pandemic made her do that. So I think technology adoption will grow much faster, and a lot of things which were happening in an inefficient way offline will move online, and that would be one way for us to recover much faster than before.
Deep, we were talking to you and we got disconnected because of the connection. Now you're in the hygiene economy. Hygiene, and sanitation, and safety are the new e-commerce. They are the new oil. They are the new data. Tell us, how's your sector doing, and what are the prospects in your sector?
So for us, it's been a blessing in disguise. Though I believe the stimulus didn't work, but for us, COVID, it's unfortunate. But I think the need for hygiene products has found a new meaning. For us, we gave India its first female urination device in Peabody. Now the sale for us went up 4x for that product. Even the Bodyguard, which is an everyday essential brand for us, we pivoted. I mean, obviously as startups, you have to think, on your feet. So we introduced the disinfectants and a couple of other products to it, and they did well. And luckily for us, because we were online, we call ourselves an online first brand. It has worked in our favor. But yes, there's been a landslide demand, increase in demand for hygiene products. So it has helped in a lot of ways. There have been a certain restrictions that have been put from the government side on the MRPs, on which we can sell some of these products. But overall, very, very good for the Indian ecosystem because need for hygiene has found a new meaning. So, and e-commerce for us also is the way to go. We've seen all age groups. I mean, for us, like Saurabh also mentioned,
is that a trend to stay? Deep, is that a temporary trend, or do you believe it's here to stay? Because the Prime Minister also kicked off the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and that was also all about cleanliness and hygiene. But I think with this pandemic, people obviously are once again paying much more prioritized attention to this, which they should have then.
No, it's absolutely here to stay. It's not going anywhere. See, the habits that you're forming now, it is said that, any habit can be formed if you do it continuously for 21 days to 30 days. Here, you've done it for 90 days. And some of this is linked to your life. You're saying my dad would otherwise just wash his hands just before the meals. And now he's so paranoid that he's washing 2 hours. And I don't think this is going washing the vegetables 5 times. So some of these habits have changed forever. yes, the delta shall not stay the same, but will not come back to where it was. So there will certainly be a new normal, and hygiene is here to stay, and so is online shopping.
Monisha, your sector is a very large employer. It is ironic that your sector, that is the content business, whether it's in soaps, movies, have really kept people safe inside. It has kept people engaged. It has entertained them. It has taken their worry away. And we've realized that how much music, movies, books, news channels are important in this pandemic in the last 78, 79 days of lockdown. Unfortunately, the entertainment and media sector hasn't seen much. What are your specific asks from the government? If you see the first package as a stage one or a package one or an installment one, what do you think the government can do practically to help your sector?
I think I'm going to just actually do a hybrid response to that, taking away from what Tushar said, which was the fact that these are forced scenarios where we're seeing exaggerated numbers of consumption on technology platforms, right? And OTT is really part of that technology boom and burst that we have all been very slow to adapt to, and we've done that now more wholeheartedly. Having said that, we cannot abandon the joy of going into a theater and watching a film. It's still one of the most coveted, most romanticized forms of consuming content and fiction. And I think that we would be doing a great disservice to the generations ahead if we put the death knell on it. And it may seem like a small part of our daily life and the purse that somebody carves out every month, but it's a very relevant part of the social fabric and the way we develop our aspirations as people. I mean, everybody in this group, I'm sure, has aspired to jump like Hrithik Roshan, dance like Tiger Shroff, or deliver dialogues like Amitabh Bachchan. And I think that all of that, those aspirations you
I want to dance like Madhuri Dixit.
Acha, you want to, of course. I'm so glad that I've got this metrosexual presence in Anurag always. But having said that, I mean, to be honest, I think the government needs to take cognizance that we need to, yes, while technology, and I completely accept. It's fascinating to see how people who would have never done it are adapting to it. But I also believe that we have to preserve some of these, what we consider...
Is one of the drawbacks going to be, Monisha, possibly less screens? We may see certain theaters shut down, particularly with the highly competitive market of multiplex versus single screens, and also, with less footfalls now, because it'll be tough to run theaters, with say just one person in a row for social distancing because of, overhead costs and whatnot. And with the film industry obviously wanting to increase screens, and we were looking at screens which were being added in preceding years to the level the industry wants, but are you going to now look at a situation with less screens in India?
So I'll give you the example of something that happened just about 17 years ago, which was SARS. And when SARS happened, where China and Hong Kong are one of the largest consumers of content in theaters, and they continue to have a lead on us globally on that in that area, it didn't kill the business. In fact, they did what Deep's business is doing, which is they adopted hygienic practices which ensured that they could restore consumer confidence. They ensured that it wasn't just about, some kind of soft sell, but it was something that was hardwired into their processes. And I have seen it personally where swipe downs on every seat, the panels, any point of contact, physical contact was round the clock after every cycle. And it ensured that consumer confidence was restored and people came back. So it's not something that's impossible. To the point, I believe that where hygiene is concerned, I think that's a concern that applies to all our businesses right now. Because the reluctance to go back into an office or go into a car or to step out and purchase a house, all of that comes from the fact that it comes to that basic requirement and a basic education. And sadly, while we all feel a little more secure because we are wiping things down, I think we miss the point. We are a very small percentage of a very large country. And unless we find a way to get this message across and actually educate people on the fact that before you punch something to order on Amazon, please learn how to use it and how to clean yourselves and how to clean the environment you're functioning in, it's going to be a really tough and uphill task. It's not enough to just get famous actors to come and make videos and ads. and say that let's put that out on nice media budgets and say that, okay, we're going to get people to come back to the office, or we're going to get people to become cleaner. You've got to do something far more deep-rooted, and you've got to collaborate with people who are part of the infrastructure to take onus of it.
Monisha, I want to ask you a real question. If you're having conversations with OTT platforms, are they asking you to take cuts on your pricing for the same quality of content? Is that a reality?
Absolutely.
And if yes, what is the extent that you are being asked to take cut on?
Well, now, if you talk about it from a commercial point of view, it's a buyer's market for them, right? Suddenly, they're in a scenario where everybody was giving them step treatment and wanting to say that the vanity of making movies was better, so I'm not going to give my time and effort to making a short format show. And suddenly, everybody's saying, oh, that script is now something that I can really adapt it and make it into an 8-hour web series. So they're in a driving seat there, and they're taking the knife and pushing it in. I don't blame them. I mean, it's opportunistic, but again, it's really it's to the time that we're in, and I think there will be a leveler as we go forward, because consumption patterns will find some kind of normalization. You're already the first 3 weeks of the pandemic lockdown, it's come down to now plateauing between 12 to 18%, right? And I don't think the content has, it's content fatigue at the end of the day, but it's also that people have adjusted and found different things to do. So I really think that we're going through a very unusual period, and the best thing we can do respectively, with whether we get a stimulus support from governments or not, state or center, I believe that it's important that as business owners and entrepreneurs, the jugaad that you're talking about has to come down to building better fiscal discipline in what we do. And it's about interacting with each other and saying that, hey, listen, can we benefit from one another's expertise and actually do the jugaad and find a way to go back to work.
Tushar has a quick point to make, I think, before we go ahead.
I do agree with Monica, like, as we have
Monisha.
Yeah, Monisha, I think in previous phase also we discussed, what we need from the government, so I think, when we talk about Singapore and European countries, they got the money in their account, we are 1.3 billion people country, even if the money comes from there, it will reach in years to us, so I think as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, if you are, we should not expect that kind of support from the government from immediately, but the kind of efforts government has done. I'm not pro government or against government. The kind of the willpower they have shown in this pandemic time, it was amazing. But one thing which I remember when one Mukesh Ambani said that if your business is not weatherproof, if you can't survive the positive and negative wave, then you might survive, but not a long-term survival. So I think as an entrepreneur, as a new, all young entrepreneurs are here. I think we have to see that what kind of weatherproofing we are doing at this time. I think that the best time to recheck that our business is, resilient to the system or not. So, and one more thing, Anurag, I personally feel like, if we really expect as a construction sector from government, you have sent all the labor to the home. Please don't give me money, but get my labor back to the, the work. And how can you do it? You have given the trains to go them, to go to their homes. But can you arrange some buses or trains to get them back also? Like I spoke to a lot of them
the confidence that they will be looked after in terms of health, in terms of their livelihood, and there is a certainty of income if they come back.
Yes, and I'll tell you one thing. One very interesting thing is like skilling is one thing. In last 15 days of experience, people those who are skilled, they are coming back because they know they will not get that kind of salary in their hometowns. So the key is like if we skill people, they will be they will be prompt to come back and work as where they are. Okay. And second, last important thing is like the MSME packages and so many packages are coming. One thing which I say, government should show empathy to the businessman. You are doing good thing for the common people, labor, everything. But when we see the statements, these big entrepreneurs or the businessmen, they are creating jobs. If at least you can't do the packaging or maybe some loans to the people, but at least give the empathy. And if they like my Monisha or Saurav or everybody is like Deep, they are creating jobs. We are creating jobs. So I think if the government gives empathy, not the loans, at least, I think this will also build the confidence. That is my point of view.
Hemant, you heard everyone. What are your ideas to get the economy back? Are there suggestions, ideas to people watching this broadcast and to people in the government who are doing policy making? What are your suggestions?
So see, I think again, if you might ask me that whether I'm being real or being cynical, but as an entrepreneur, I really I like focusing on my own business. So I would say as a startup, I think anything coming from government is a bonus. We need to focus on our own businesses. We need to focus on not just surviving, but we need to look at thriving. So the mindset of just surviving this through won't really give us any benefit. We really need to think how to get the best out of this. What is the silver lining and how do we get the best out of it? And there's a huge mindset change that's happening. So personally, I've been completely against work from home in the past. And there have been a lot of discussions in the team around it. But now the mindset change is different. We're scaling down our office. We are, investing more in other, I would say, perks for the team members. So I think I have no advice for the government. I think they should do what they think is the right. But personally, from an entrepreneur's perspective, I think let's focus on getting the best out of what we have. Consumption of content, like Monisha was saying, technology will also play a big role in helping us come out of this. So a specific example from education is that in education, technology is not only facilitating online classes. A lot of good universities like Ashoka and OP Jindal, where we work, is also working on how do they leverage technology to make their universities safer. How are they going to have better diagnostic in the campus? How are they going to have a better control over who's getting inside the campus and who's going out of the campus? How are they making sure that not too many people crowd into a class or a canteen at one time? So technology will continue to play a larger role, while some trends might be more visible, let's say, like what Monisha was saying, that while the OTT might be a trend that we get to see, but technology will also play a big role in how do we make our theaters and our multiplexes more safe, and how we have a track of who's coming in, is the person has any history or what. So technology is going to play a large role.
We are coming towards the fag end of the discussion. I would like all the panelists to address these two questions. How to get the demand back?
Just before we get those closing comments, let Deep also just weigh in, Dr. Batra, on the emerging trends. On of course a tech trend that's one of the trends that's emerged, that Tushar and Saurabh commented on earlier. Hemant has brought up his trends on the new normal. Monisha has also spoken about. Deep, what is a new trend that's going to be here to stay in this post-COVID era, according to you?
I think to us, the thing that we discussed in the team is that what 9/11 did to aviation, COVID will do to hygiene. So the trend will be that you will not travel, work the same way as you were used to before. And as startups, what we have to see now what is going to be the challenge that we're going to face because of the 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year hence. So that's what we are working on. We're already thinking that next 3 to 6 months solution we've already innovated. What is it that we need to do for the next 1 year? And that's where our energies are aligned. And I think that's going to be the new normal for everyone.
Okay. What Deep is saying that, security checks post 9/11 became, people started traveling and security checks became the new normal. And the confidence that you're more secure, let you fly and come back to normal. Hopefully hygiene and sanitation will do that to most travelers post-COVID. What I was asking you there before we brought Deep in was how to get the demand back, and where do you see economy 90 to 120 days from now? We'll start with Tushar and we'll come back to Monisha. Tushar, how to get the demand back, and where do you see the economy 90 to 120 days from now? I'm not thinking long term. I'm really looking in the short term.
Yeah, so Anurag, in my views, there are, complete ecosystem to get economy back. So if the consumer is there, there has to be, supplier. If supplier is there, there has to be a manufacturing. If manufacturing is there, there has to be people who are working in the manufacturing. Right now, what I see, personally, like I'm in a construction business, I have a factory also. So there is, links are missing. Links are missing means like right now you have a factory. Oh, you can start your factory with hygiene or something, but the people are not there. If the people are there, then the logistic is not there. So in my sense, like government has to work right now. Like there are CII, FICCI, and a lot of channels, a lot of don't give us money. If you give us support to understand our problem and complete that ecosystem, that is good enough. So everybody can't get the stimulated package or loans. There are some industries those who can survive by themselves. Like Saurabh don't need any government package. He has already got 180 million funding. He's ready to fund all of us in this panel. But
80 million, not yet, not 180 million yet. Right now only 80 million plus. But as they say, maybe you're a futurist and you can see him getting another $100 million.
Fundamentally, the complete ecosystem has to be completed in my sense, and it can complete if you start thinking that how the labor will be back in the native place. That is one planning government has to do. Second thing, if let's say you are saying that you have to pay to someone, are you thinking that how will you get paid also? The government is pushing you to pay to labor, pay to your manpower, pay to your, yes, it is absolutely fair. You have to, but are you thinking that how the businesses will survive? If let's say I need to pay 1 crore rupees for my people, and if I don't have money in my bank, should I sell my house? Should I sell my office? Should I sell my assets? It has to be looked into a complete ecosystem. You can't think about one person and you leave another person. So if you think in a longer run and complete the chain, I think it will be great. And second thing, in 90 or 120 days, unlike that Diwali is like October, November, the retail businesses, like the consumer businesses, eateries, they will all revive if the second wave is not coming and we are just going forward. But the businesses like us, interior business or maybe construction business, real estate business, it will take time. But how can we expedite the same? It can be expedited that if government only think and empathize with all service providers and all the ecosystem players that come together and think about it. So I'll just give you about the malls, So how the GDP, I'm sure that everybody know how GDP is calculated. So GDP will increase when the consumption will increase. Consumption will increase when you start the suppliers or maybe factories or maybe retail. So if the malls are opening with the safety and the high street shops are opening with the safety, I'm sure the consumption will increase. Consumption will increase. The companies will get money. They will spend to I think B2B market. I think, but I see before Diwali not too much.
Diwali is on 14 November. Diwali is on 14 November. It's 5 months and 4 days away.
Yeah, but one thing, Anurag, you have to just think about it. It is not our Indian B2B businesses. I think Saurabh can also endorse that, are based on UK or US economy. When they earn money, they spend in India, and then the businesses are running on that economy. Right now, they are also sleeping like us. They are also in anxiety, what to do, what not to do. They should develop their system in India or not. So right now, I think 2-3 months will go in with these kind of sentiments. People will be thinking, should we burn the cash, should not we burn the cash? Should we, make this new office or should we make the new movie or not? Because, everything is collected. Monisha will not make any movie till the time.
Just straight answer. Will the economy look good in 90 days or no? Yes, no answer.
I am positive it should look good, but sentiments are not.
We're running out of time, so let's quickly get a rapid fire going, Dr. Batra.
So, sort of the same question: how to get the demand back, and where will be the Indian economy in 90 to 120 days?
I think clearly the demand is dependent on one, job preservation, and second, the future outlook. How I as a consumer think about my future, which totally depends on my job safety and stuff. So one big effort should be about saving the jobs, making sure that people are not losing jobs and they're more positive about the future. Second, clearly, I think people should feel safer, and that's when they'll move out. If the number of cases are going down, they'll come out and start consuming.
Okay, fair enough. Let's quickly move to the next and quick word. Economy 90 days. Hemant.
I think there are several markets which should be left to the consumers and the suppliers. I think too much of regulation is creating a lot of confusion, a lot of things. So I think if we could give more and more freedom to the markets to take certain decisions, regulations, that I think would be really useful.
How to get the back, and where will be the economy in 3 to 4 months from now?
Please open up the lockdown. The amount of people we have deployed in implementation of lockdown, the same number of people now need to be pushed in implementation of the new normal. economy will come back. People are themselves conscious, and I think that we have already started to see the trend in their buying behavior.
Okay. Monisha,
we started with you, we end with you.
Thank you. It's a very simple strategy. The delta between active cases and recovered cases is what I really use as my dipstick to see what the sentiment is out there. And it's strange, but you can actually see that mimicking, whether it's in the stock market, whether it is on the streets outside. Let's all of us just pray that the delta keeps widening and we see the recovery cases going up.
Okay, that's a good word to close on. That's a positive sentiment to close on. We leave it at that. My thanks to all of you for joining us today, and thanks to Dr. Batra as well. We'll be back, of course, same time, same place tomorrow with lots more analysis on the current state of the Indian economy.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.